I think it's only appropriate that since the topic of our last show was healing, that the topic of this show would be death.
Yes. Somehow or another, they sort of
Go together.
They often go together,
Yes,
actually.
that's right.
So, hello, friends. It's good to be with you again. You know, for 28 years, I had a little class here in Tucson, mostly over there at the university in that lovely little room space. And one of my friends who was with me off and on during that time is sitting here, and we remember that mostly it was in the pitch dark. And when I walk in, I had no idea what the subject. People would ask me. They thought I knew. What the class going to be about? What are we going to talk about? Well, I don't know.
Betty, that's sort of like our TV show.
It's sort of like the TV. Maybe that was what it was about, preparing us for that. But anyway, I did that for 28 years. What was it, Monday night we did that?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, my Tuesday night class. Well, actually, I didn't really want to give it up because I learned a lot there in the dark and just speaking. And sometimes I could hear what I was saying. Other times I didn't. Sometimes people would tell me what I said, like when I told them I was going to take them all to
Tahiti.
To Tahiti. And it came out of there, and I had to take, Anyway, that was an interesting situation, and we went to Tahiti. But not knowing what you're saying when you come out of there.
Someday we are going to tell that story about the trip to Tahiti.
Anyway, it's really interesting. It happened. But when I came out of trance, and so my student says, you said we're going to Tahiti next month, and we're going to spend a week, and we're going to live there, stay at this beautiful hotel, and all this for $600 per week. And I said, what? What are you talking about? Anyway, it happened. But I guess I learned a lot from what went through me, the lights off and no distraction. Then somebody would ask a question, and it would take exactly 1 hour and a half to give the answer in the dark. And so some of it was residual and some of it I remembered. But it was a lovely, lovely time. And one night...
Did they teach you this ability in the Marines?
I hoped. Now, you know what? It could have been that sometimes it was so painful that I left my body.
Okay. All right.
I know a lot of times I wanted to
leave your body, yeah.
Especially in boot camp
Yeah.
at Parris Island. But one night in that class, I had a friend, Ann Larson. She had a church, spiritualist church up in Washington State. And when she retired and came down here, and she said, I don't want to do any teaching. I don't, do any preaching, any of that. But can I sit in your Tuesday night class? Well, it's a free class, been going on for all these years. Please join us, She says, well, now, Betty, I have to tell you that my purpose this life, my teachers and my role is to talk to people, let them come in, from the spirit world.
Okay.
And then tell them to go to the light. Because, friends, since there is no death, and you are going into the same level or frequency of consciousness in which you are now, then many people are not going into a place that they would perceive to be heaven when they go over, because they're not in heaven now.
So they wouldn't know about how to get there.
No,
Yeah.
And so that's just the law. The law of attraction is always in action. And so when you walk through the veil, this energy veil, through which a lot of us can see into, you're going in the same frequency. So you really want to be a person of ethics and character and the acknowledgement that you are spirit, okay? And that you're not a drug addict, and you're not a hateful person, and you're not an alcoholic, because,
So you have played that role.
Well, we have this role, and so yes, we all have, but a lot of people are going to, drink that 6-pack every night so they can get over the workday and go, tomorrow, and they're pretty well what you say stoned, okay? So they don't really want to go into what a lot of churches say you're going into heaven just because you die and because you
Or hell.
or hell.
Yeah.
But if you have a good intention, and you're not a bad person, but you just take the drugs and the alcohol just to numb it down to get through the day, okay? This is not a good thing. It's not right or wrong, good or bad, until you make transition, and then you get to stay with people in the bar room all the time. And
So Anne, she
Yeah.
said her purpose here
was, yes,
to go to reach these souls who've already made transition but are still sort of caught in between.
and so many people are
Okay.
now. I read in the paper this morning where a man, frenzied out of his mind. If he were in his mind, he wouldn't have done it, but he was in his mind, and he shot and killed his wife and his 4 little babies, okay? And then himself. So he thought, well, I'll just put myself out of this misery. Well, honey, he doesn't know misery yet until he he wakes up over there, and there's his wife and those 4 babies
On the other side
on
with
the
him.
other side with him, and there is no golden gate, and there are no golden, and there are not angels playing harps where he is, and he's real sorry, very sorry, okay? So we want people to know that there is no death, and that this so-called Jacob's ladder, which actually might have 33 steps or something like that, like the Masons have, but it's a world of progression, and you don't want to be stuck in this netherland, okay?
Either here or there.
So when she told me this, she says, now this is my commission, this is what I have been doing. I go into trance, and I have sort of like a contract. There are a couple of teachers in spirit who bring people to me, and I talk to them, and I tell them to go to the light. The teachers over there cannot convince them, because this is an interesting fact. They come from the earth plane. The teachers are in another vibration. They have to be talking to someone here on the earth plane, and that is law. That's why, as some of you know, we travel around the world for the Ascended Masters, because talking for the Ascended Masters, channeling them, because they cannot go to that place, but we can.
We're here.
We're here.
It's like we're on
here.
we're on set. We're on the set. And the Ascended Masters, the high beings, the ones with cosmic consciousness are off the set. They may be producers
Right.
and directors, but only the people on the set can do the changes in the
Absolutely.
on scene.
Absolutely. So anyway, this I said, that's nice. I said, I don't do that. I don't want these entities coming through me, but I didn't say that either.
Okay, all right.
I just said, no, well, that's interesting. Could I do that sometime? And I thought, yeah, about 40 years. So this one night she showed up, and she had some beautiful teachers. And this one teacher came in, and Anne always sat right by me. And she said, Anne's commission here, and her role here on the earth this time, is to do this, to take people to the light. And I said, that's nice of her. I really admire that woman for that. And she said, would you let her do it sometime? And I said, well, yeah. And I'm thinking 40 years.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
The very next
Not in this class.
voice. I mean, the split second, here is this. When I said yes, I
You
can't-
didn't mean, yeah.
I don't mean today. I don't mean now.
Yeah.
And this voice came in. And there were about 35, 40 people in that big circle in that room.
Yeah.
Sitting
In the
there
dark.
In the dark. And this voice comes in, weeping and wailing, you know, and oh my God, she's saying, oh, he shot me, he shot me, he shot me. Where are my babies? Where are my babies?
Oh, Betty.
Well, I'll tell you, it just about curled my hair. And I knew what to say, but I could not. I'm looking around the room, and I'll tell you, everybody's sitting
Shocked.
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 Yes.
And she's crying for her babies.
Yes.
And so I said, oh my God. I said, you see that white light? Go to the light. Now, isn't that what you're supposed to say? Isn't that what you're supposed to say? Go to the light, okay? You've heard that.
Yeah.
Go to the light.
Yeah.
So I said to her, do you see that white light? Yes, I see it. I said, well, honey, go over to the light. And she says, no, I'm not going over there. And I said, well, it'll be good. She says, no, my grandmother's over there. Well, I'm a grandmother, and grandmothers love their kids, you know, so I took a chance that hers loved her. So I said, well, honey, your grandmother loves you. You love your grandmother too, don't you? And she says, well, yes, I do. And I said, well, go over there. She's waiting for you. And she says, no. I said, why not? She says, she's dead.
Oh, so she was afraid that if she went over there, she'd be dead too. But her consciousness was there, and she was afraid if she went to go see her grandmother, the consciousness, everything would go. She would be dead. She would be dead.
Well, she wasn't dead.
No.
She was alive.
She just wasn't on the set anymore.
She was shot.
Yes.
Her children had disappeared.
Yeah.
She's there by herself. And she doesn't. Well, I'll tell you folks. Now, what would be my next line to say? You all know what you're supposed to say. You know what I'm supposed to say. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. We just
You couldn't say, well, dear, you're already dead. You get it?
No.
Okay.
I could not
Say
say it.
that. I understand.
You know, I couldn't say it, and everybody's looking at me.
Like, what? Tell her, Betty.
Tell her,
Tell her. She's already
dead.
there. Yeah, she's dead.
I couldn't say it.
Okay.
It was a long, long pause. And
Yeah.
then she says to me, am I dead? And I said, yes, honey, you are. She said, well, I'm going over there with my grandma then. Never forgot it. Anybody in that class never forgot it.
Man. Boy. That's like being put
Could
on
not
Front
say.
Street.
Could not say. Now, I have a little book that a couple of mediums wrote, and the title of it is what one of the little boys said. Now, these two mediums had a role exactly like Reverend Ann Larson, and there was a night a week that they would get together too, and they worked mostly with children. So there were guides, a couple of guides.
They're like Traveler's Aid then, aren't they? I mean, the guy that used to run into at the Greyhound bus depot or a trailway station, the lady be out there, Traveler's Aid. That's what they're like.
Well, you know what? I believe that's exactly true.
Yeah.
So these two women, one would go into trance, and the other would talk to.
Oh, talk to them.
And this was
Okay.
children.
Okay.
So there were. I have the book. It's
Yeah.
lovely. But to quote one of the little boys who came in.
Yeah.
And the teachers on the other side, there was a male and a female. They had toys, okay? They had around them toys, and when a child would come over, which they do a lot,
Yeah, they do.
they would try to get their attention. Well, they don't know where they are in either, a little
Yeah.
out of it. And so they would say to them, well, hi there, Timmy or Johnny. You seem to be lost. Can I help you? No, I'm afraid of, I don't,
Yeah.
I was taught not to talk to strangers,
Strangers.
right? Stranger danger. And so they would say to them, would you, what would you really like? You're wandering around here, and what is there a favorite toy you'd like? Well, I'd like a bicycle. Yep.
Yeah.
Here's a bicycle. And so they would tell him, and he could come through the other medium, okay, and talk
To the kids,
to
yeah.
the kid, and the one is connected with the spirit, with the teacher guides over
Okay.
here. And one of them said one time, well, when he found out he was dead, they said, well, when you're when you're dead, you're alive.
That's
That's
it.
the name of the book.
That's when you're dead, you're alive.
you're dead,
That's
you're
a wonderful
alive.
title.
And it's the title of a book that I have on my shelf of hundreds,
Yeah.
And that was, so there were little girls that would come through. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, though, about it was some of the children were not dead. Some of them, it's kind of interesting. You've got bunk beds. You have your 2-year-old on a bottom bunk, and you've got a 5-year-old or 4-year-old on the top bunk. Some of these kids fell out of the top bunk and were out of their body. You know what I mean?
On the other side?
They were unconscious.
Okay.
And so they were on the other side, but they were not dead.
Dead. Okay.
And so there are interviews with those children too, because they're in the same place, but they're not disconnected from their
Their
body.
bodies. They're just temporarily out of it.
The silver cord has
Yeah.
not been severed. They've just been knocked unconscious, and they're walking around over there.
I've had that feeling here. But maybe that's what was wrong with me for a while.
Well, anyway, that's a different take, isn't
Okay,
it?
yeah, it is. You just don't, when you told that story, I thought, wow, what we do is we have these experiences and we make up the rest of the story.
We make it up.
We make it up. Now, the common story that we all agree to is that when people die, or they die, they either get hit by a car, or a disease hits them, or they die in the middle of sleep,
Right.
or grandma didn't wake up. Oh my God, what does that mean? Well, she's dead. So that's what we know. That's what we see. We see some event like that.
Yeah.
Now, what happens?
They're gone to heaven.
They've gone to heaven.
hell.
Something happened. All right. Now, we know that. We see it happening. All right. What we don't see and what we don't know is what happened to the consciousness after that.
Right.
Now, we assume because we can't interact with them that somebody took an eraser or and blew and it went nowhere.
Right.
And that scares the holy crap out of us. I mean, because if it happened to her or him, it's going to happen to me. And when that happens, I'm going to go nowhere too.
Right.
Now, the truth is, we made that leap of consciousness. And it's not consciousness. We made a leap into an error that we all agree upon. That when that happens, it's over, it's done, and it's over. Now, what the stories that you've told us, and your experience, Betty, and my too now, because of the Temple of Universality and talking with psychics and mediums, is that there is no death.
Sitting in the seance,
In the
spirit
in the
room,
spirit world.
seance room,
Yes.
every other Friday night.
Oh,
Talking to people.
yeah.
Well,
Folks, this is somebody you should hang out with.
if you want to talk to your friends and relatives,
It's
who are
true.
pre-transition,
If
I mean,
life
why
is sort of
not?
boring and you've been
know.
channel changing and going to see what's on the next thing, and oh my God, Friends is over, and Steve Carell's going to leave The Office, and it's between football season and basketball season. I don't quite know what to do with my life. There's a whole lot going on this planet, in this room, outside of this room, than you can even conceive of. What we know, you know what it's like, Betty? It's like we all have our eyes shut.
Oh, we want to be deaf
Okay?
and dumb and
We
blind.
all have our eyes shut, and we only talk with other people that have their eyes shut too. All right? And the truth is that if we got hit on the head real hard and our eyes got opened, we would see something that we would never ever see.
Right.
And I think the world, this is when this data is absolutely stunning. That, you know, and we hear these things of near-death experiences.
Truth is simple.
Yeah, but we don't. People are so afraid of the truth because it's so at odds with what we've agreed or what we think is true.
And it doesn't have a whole philosophy and religiosity around
No,
it.
that's what people make up about. Those are the little stuff that people do about life. And your statement that you have no beliefs, that you don't believe or disbelieve, you
had
just
enough of
experience.
that.
You just had enough of them. I mean, you went through 2 major religions.
Right.
I mean, Catholic. I go first Southern Baptist, then Catholic, and before you reach
They're
spiritualism.
all very beautiful, beautiful stories.
Yes,
But
but
experience
is
is
something different, real different.
Well, you know, when Joel says in the Bible, there is a time coming when the men, the boys, and everybody is going to see differently, and there will be a new world, and where, you know, that veil was rent in 1848, so we're a little behind schedule, I think, but. You know, people really don't tell me the truth. That's all. Just like my dad.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are you talking about? You know, don't say that. You know, and then that beautiful poem I got from him 2 months after he made transition. You know, is it just exactly like you said it is, and it's wonderful. And so now, you know, and he started going to school. But I think, you know, Friday night before last, when we started, and all these men, all these friends of mine from my class came in, and it was like a school reunion.
It was
my intervision class.
This
It
was
like,
what Betty is describing is a trance circle that we have regularly at the Temple of Universality. Sit in the dark room, and the medium goes into trance, and all of a sudden, these people, you have no idea who's going to come.
No.
You have no idea what spirit's going to come. You don't have
Generally teachers.
Generally teachers, sometimes friends, sometimes children, sometimes blah blah blah.
Sometimes Jesus. Sometimes his mother. the Blessed Mother.
Things happen in that room. But this night, 2 weeks ago, they started coming in, and it was like Betty's old home week.
It was like.
And it was from that class.
It was from that class.
That Tuesday night class in the dark. A lot of these people have passed over.
Or just from the church.
Or just from the church. They came back and started talking to Betty.
And they said they were in class.
Yes.
Now, some of these men, you know, I had on Sunday, I had Dr. George Olson's obituary because he'd made transition on September 25th, just a couple of months ago. So I brought it. It's been on my fridge. You know, it's a long, illustrious
He was a professor
career.
here, wasn't he?
Yeah, professor.
At the university.
At the university. And then Harold Rankin, Monica's husband, came in.
Yeah.
And Jay Lindahl, one of my students. You remember Jay from Kansas, and Harold Rankin. You know, but there was a whole group of them, and they said, "Oh, we go to class," and Jay said, "Well, I was in the intervision class," so. He was sort of lording it over them because he had already had basic metaphysics, advanced metaphysics, and he worked with the masters, you know, the ascended masters.
And the professor had known about this stuff.
And this industrialist, this wonderful, wonderful man, Lowell Morfill, who built a church for Kateri Tekakwitha, you know. Anyway.
Folks, Sunday, 11 a.m. corner of Prince and Country Club at the Masonic Temple, Temple of Universality. Everybody